This project is going to use black chrome tan leather, premium veg tan leather, 5mm double-sided adhesive tape, black on black Tyvek, black Ritza tiger thread, and a hardware baggie. In this hardware baggie, we have a 4mm heavy-duty D-ring, a snap spacer, and 2 sets of black line 20 snaps. The first thing we're going to work on is we're going to finish the edges that are going to become difficult once we start assembling it. That will be where the D-ring attaches to the wallet, because once that's attached, we're going to have a hard time finishing the edges right in here and in here. The rest of it, we can wait until the end and really work to merge after adding the other layers of leather, but these we're going to want to do first. We're going to start off with this black chrome tan leather, and we're going to start working on the back side, so the finished side face down, rough side up. We're going to grab our 5mm double-sided adhesive tape, and our black Tyvek. What we're going to be doing is adding in folds of this Tyvek in order to create card pockets for our wallet. Tyvek is awesome because it allows you to create these wallet pockets without adding additional bulk that would come from layering this many layers of leather. So you can have a sleek, slimline wallet with only 2 pieces of leather. I love this black on black Tyvek because most Tyvek has a black side and a white side, so you can always kind of see the Tyvek through your project. With this black on black, you don't deal with the white at all, and I just really like the sleek look. So when you're looking for Tyvek, there is a difference between the black on white and black on black. We're going to apply some double-sided adhesive tape. We're going to be applying the tape in 4 horizontal strips. We're going to place 3 horizontal strips directly below the cut lines. We want to match up the top edge of our adhesive with the top edge of each of these pockets. And then we're going to add one up here to hold it all together after. So I'm just going to line up the edge of my double-sided adhesive with the edge of the pocket, press down, and then I'm just going to press down with my nail. I'm going to rip it off when it gets to the edge. Then we're going to place the 4th right above the top slit. So even after all this tape has been applied, these slits still open perfectly and they're aligned with those edges. Once we've applied our 4 strips, we're going to take our roll of Tyvek, and what we're going to end up doing is we're going to remove this backer and place the Tyvek centered over that tape line, and as we pull downward, it's going to grip where we remove the backer. So we're going to start with that. We'll rub it a little bit with the scratch awl, and then just give it a poke. So we'll rub the adhesive just a little bit, and then poke it with our scratch awl and remove the backer. And then we'll take our Tyvek and try and center it, and then press down. Now as we pull the roll back downward, we're going to make a very sharp crease with the Tyvek so it doesn't get pulled at all with the repetitive inserting and removing cards from these pockets. So we're going to give it a tight crease, make it crisp with the back flat end of our scratch awl. We'll roll it back downward. Now we're going to want to make a sharp crease about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom of the leather. So we'll make it to here. We'll again press down the back of our scratch awl. Now there's a pretty distinct fold here, and we're going to go back up. Make sure our adhesive is pressed down firmly. Give it a poke. Pull it off. Now while holding firm where we had creased down at the bottom of the wallet, we're just going to press it back upward. Press firmly and allow it to roll back downward. Letting it line up. Making sure we get a sharp crease. And again, using our scratch awl to really make that crisp. And now we're going to want to make another fold down here, a little over 1/4 inch. Basically, however much distance we're leaving between the folds is how much distance we're going to have with letting our cards poke up. Make sure we're staying nice and centered. Make that crease really crisp. And again, rub our adhesive, poke it a little with the scratch awl, and then we're going to hold firm on our crisp edge down here and guide it upwards to cover the adhesive we just exposed. Fold back down. And again, do a nice crisp crease. And then repeat down at the bottom the same distance that we had left between the other folds. Make sure we're centered. What I like to do with the excess is peel it backwards and then try and crease it right above where our adhesive tape is. And now that we have this crisp fold, we can just cut right along that crisp fold. And now we're able to remove this top piece of adhesive. Now to keep these laying flat, we just want to take a little piece of adhesive and throw it on the back, maybe about 1 inch. And we'll do that each of the back sides of each of these flaps. Before we adhere the pockets to the lining leather, we're going to grab a set of snaps. So we're going to need 1 rounded post, 1 flat post, the flat back for this post, and the rounded one that has the gold ring inside for the rounded post. This one we're going to set aside and use it later. For now, we just want the flat post and its back. What we're going to do is we're going to take this spacer and we're going to place it directly onto the post. This acts as a spacer and helps protect this thinner leather from having so much pressure put on these edges and potentially tearing over time. Using the spacer stops that from happening. So we're going to put it on the post, just like this, and then we're going to slide through the hole to where we're going in through the rough side and poking out on the finished side. Now all we need to do is cap it off and then set it. So we'll take our line 20 snap setter, place it over, and just like before, I'm going to take my pinky and ring finger and hold the two different pieces of hardware together firmly, place on the snap setter, grip with my index and thumb. I'm going to take my polymer maul, making sure that my snap setter is straight up and down. Hit it firmly, and then we're going to do a test to see if it spins. Since it's not spinning, it is set firmly, and we're good to peel off. And we'll just remove the backer, press it down, and repeat that on each. Now that we have attached our Tyvek and part of our hardware, we're going to grab our double-sided adhesive tape and we're going to come along the top and we're going to try and make sure we line up the top edge of our tape with the top edge of the leather. We don't want to hang off the edge, but we want to align with the top. Now, as we round these corners, we do want to make sure we cover all of the surface area. So we are just going to let it cover the leather and then rip it off. And repeat that on this side, lining up the edge of our leather with the edge of our tape. And this overhang is fine because we're just going to snip that off. So we'll line up with our leather. And repeat that on all four sides. And it is perfectly fine if your adhesive overlaps over your Tyvek pockets. And what we should have is something that looks like this. Now, any areas where the tape is showing, we're going to trim those off. If the tape is poking out past the edge of the leather and we don't remove it, it ends up gumming up when we're trying to burnish the edges later. So I just want to remove any of it that we see. Now set aside the very last bit of your double-sided adhesive tape because we're going to use that for one of the last steps to hold this in place before we stitch it. So don't throw this away yet. Now we're going to attach our black chrome tan leather to our veg tan. We're going to make sure that our veg tan leather is face down, so finished side down, rough side up. We're also going to work from the bottom towards the top. So we want to make sure that we flip the front of our wallet to where the bottom aligns with the bottom of the wallet. Very similar to making the money clip, we want to make sure that our holes on our black leather align perfectly with the holes on the veg tan leather. So we're just going to start with the edge. We're going to remove one piece of backer. And we're going to eye it up. We're going to line up the edge with the edge, but also aiming to where we can see light through the holes that have been pre-punched so we know that we're keeping the alignment accurate. So just hovering over until we're confident that we've lined up, and then we can press. And then we can work on one of the side pieces. So we'll just kind of press down, poke and grab up the back around the adhesive. And then make sure that we are aligning all of the holes. Gently manipulating the leather to stay aligned properly. With both the edge of the leather and the holes. Repeat that on this side. And before pressing down this edge, we're going to want to go in remove that last piece of backer, and then making sure that we're aligned. Little pulls and gentle manipulation. Align these corners. Now, before we do any stitching, we're going to want to take our double-sided adhesive tape it off. So now we've applied just one strip of adhesive right here, which will eventually fold down and lay flush against the black leather. But before we do anything that attaches it, we're going to burnish these edges. So we're going to grab our tokenol, and we're going to apply tokenol to this rough edge. I'll go over the corners a little bit. Just take our burnisher, gently burnish to gloss up this edge. We're going to do it to the outside of this strap as well. Apply some tokenol. Use light pressure and friction. And then we're going to carefully do that to this inside edge as well. So careful not to get any tokenol on the rest of our leather. We're just going to apply a little layer. Gloss that up. And we're going to take our 4mm heavy duty D-ring and we're going to slide it on to this little strap. Try to place it centered. Then once we remove this adhesive strip, we're going to press firmly and stitch it in place. Before we remove the adhesive, we're going to load up our needle. We're going to be doing a single needle stitch to attach this strap to the wallet. So we're going to need one needle and our thread. We're not going to use very much of our thread to do this simple stitch, but the remainder of this thread will be used with 2 needles to do a saddle stitch around the rest of our wallet. So we're just going to use a little of this thread. We're going to pinch and pull and thread it through the eye of our needle. Then we're going to fold down and we're going to line it up, make sure all is well with it, and then go ahead and remove our adhesive. The adhesive, again, is just a temporary bond to hold it in place while we get stitches in. So I'm going to carefully make sure that this curve matches the curve of the black. We're going to press it in, hold it in place, and we're going to go in through the 2 layers of leather, and we're going to go into the second hole like we did before on our key clip. We're going to come through, and we're going to pull most of this length of thread through. We're only going to leave as much as we need to tie it off. So we're just going to hold that off to the side. And then just like when we made the belt clip, we're going to come through the 3rd hole in on the back, and that's going to come right up through the 3rd hole on the front. We're going to go back in through the 4th hole and out through the 4th hole. Pull tight, but not tight enough to remove this tail that we're going to need to tie it off. So I'm just going to grip that. We're going to come back a stitch, making sure that we're careful not to pierce the threads. We want to come in next to them, not pierce through them. We're going to come back in through the 2nd hole from the edge. Pull it tight. And then go back. And we're going to come through that 1st hole. Now to finish our stitch, we're going to go back through the 2nd hole, but instead of coming out the back of the wallet, we're going to angle sideways and come out again between the 2 layers. This is going to allow us to have a hidden knot on the inside. So we're going to pull firm on both of our threads. Make sure our stitches are tight. And we're going to tie it off. And we'll just go in with our thread snips. Cut the threads. And set this remaining thread still attached to our needle aside because we're going to use that. Now we're going to grab our 2nd needle. And we're going to thread the other end of our black thread that already has 1 needle on it. So we're just going to grip and pull and thread it through the eye of the needle. Now, just like when we made the money clip, we want to make sure that these tails on our needles are exactly the same length. So if one is much longer than the other, we need to shorten it and make sure that they're the same length, which now they are, and then find our center. Now for stitching our wallet, just like when we made the money clip, when we tie it off at the end, there will be a little bit of a bump from where we tie off the knot. I'm going to choose to start at the very bottom of the wallet, so my little bump will be down at the bottom. It's not overly noticeable, but it is just right there. Now we're going to begin our saddle stitch by coming in through one of the center holes down at the bottom. Pulling our needles to the center and verifying that our tails are the same length. I'm going to grip a piece of thread on the black leather side to make sure it doesn't move and I don't lose my center. And then I'm just going to come through and pull, and then take the needle that I was gripping, move to gripping the other thread, and then come back through. Pull tight, and now we're ready to start stitching. I'm going to load the project into my stitching pony. And again, since I like to have, I'm going to start with the needle in my right hand, go in through the veg-tan side, and then meet the needle coming from the opposite direction, grip the threads below the eyes, and use the threads to push the needles all the way through. Then we're going to pull tight. We're going to go in, both needles coming from opposite directions, through the next hole, grip the threads, push through, pull tight, and we're going to continue the simple but awesome saddle stitch all the way around. Now as I approach this very last stitch, I am going to go through with both needles again, but then pause because we're going to need to end our stitch. To end our stitch, we're going to need to break the seal again, either one stitch above or below where we started and ended. On this one, I'm going to go back one stitch. So I'm going to pull between the veg tan leather and the black leather, so my needle will have an easier time piercing between the two layers. I'm going to pull, and then repeat that on the back, going backwards one stitch and angling to where I'm going to come out between the two layers of leather versus out the other side of the leather. So now that I've made it through, I'm going to remove my needles and trim my threads so they're easier to tie. Pull firm. And knot it, making sure that we pull tight and get the knot between the two layers. We'll finesse the two layers after the fact. We want to pull that knot deep in there and then do it again. Now that it's in there, we can snip each one close to the knot. And then we can press our leather back together. Now we're going to attach the other end of our snap. So we're going to take the rounded post and the rounded back with the gold ring inside. We're going to have our leather face up. We're going to go through to where the post is now coming out the rough side of the leather. We're going to cap it off where we can see the post poking through the center of our bowl. We're going to take the concave anvil and place the snap centered on the anvil. We're going to grab our snap setter, and just like before, we're going to place the snap setter dead center on the snap, pressing the post firm down to the anvil. I'm going to take pinky, ring finger, hold the two pieces of snap hardware together, and then hold the snap setter straight up and down with my thumb and index finger. Now I'm holding firm. I'm going to give it a couple whacks. Since we used our concave anvil, our hardware is not dented. We're going to give it a spin check. It is spinning a little bit, and so I do want to hit it again. So I'm just going to repeat the process where I hold firm, hit it again, and then see. And it's no longer spinning when I try to spin the hardware. So we're going to make sure that our snaps went together properly. And they do. We're going to start encouraging this fold. Now all of our hardware is attached, our wallet is assembled, and we just need to finish our edge. So we're going to grab Tokonol and our burnisher. We're going to gloss up these edges. The width of the D-ring can get in the way sometimes, so I just kind of tuck it out of the way. Getting in this corner is near impossible, so just give it the best you can. And we'll keep working our way around. And I can't stress it enough, the burnishing is light friction. Or light pressure, mostly friction, that glosses it up. If you find yourself pressing too hard, you'll end up deforming your leather. So it's all about patience and a light hand. And then once the edges are glossed up to your liking, you need to let them fully dry, of course. But now we have made our keychain wallet. Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did.